to Factory Sealed. It's December 11th, 2014. I kind of forgot how to do this. It's been a while. We're back from...
outer space?
No, from the ashes of podcasts past. We're rising up again. I think it's, what is this, the third time we've come back?
Third time's a charm.
Third time or fourth time. But we have spent the past 6 months, yes, it's been 6 months since our last show, talking, revamping, and we're excited to, first of all, introduce the people on the show. I'm Eric Peterson, joined today by Mr. Aaron Robison.
Hello.
Jess Clarkson.
Hello.
What was that?
I'm laughing at how enthusiastic Aaron was.
Hello. And we have made a decision to bring on a fourth. You all may remember him from...
Can we do a drum roll?
Many emails. And I think for the first maybe 20 episodes, he was our only listener. Mr. Nick Stevens.
Hey, good decision, guys. I'm glad you brought me on.
We're glad to have you. Hopefully you stay with us and we don't scare you away.
Shit the bed.
It's good to have somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We sure as shit don't.
I don't know about that, but yeah, thank you guys. You all, after listening to your show for such a long time, I started my own podcast. So you're definitely a huge influence. So it's an honor. I'm not gonna get all sappy, but it's an honor to be on here. So thank you.
Go ahead, get sappy. This is Factory Sealed. Let it gush.
Can someone cue like the the sappy music and
we'll put it in post. Just leave a blank space and we'll put in some sappy music and you can wax poetic. Well, I drink coffee, that's not coffee. It's wine out of a coffee mug.
Man, you're living the dream.
I've been doing it for so long that my brain just says coffee.
It has to be coffee. It's just coffee.
Yeah.
Can't wait till you go to work and like, hey, I've got this is my coffee. This isn't coffee.
This is shit. That's what I feel like I missed the golden age of teaching where that was okay. Like they'd walk around in coffee mugs.
It's still okay.
Maybe in a private school?
I just wouldn't test that.
No. Maybe vodka, because that doesn't really smell.
Unless you drink enough of it, then it really does.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it starts to ooze out of your pores.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to go to AA.
What you need is the mead. You got to have the mead.
Oh, dude, I love mead.
I don't really like mead. We got it for Game of Thrones one time, and I just didn't really like it.
It's probably because you're Canadian.
God damn it.
That's got it.
I'm overrun by Americans right now. This isn't okay.
Not only that, but you got two Southern boys on. And Eric, a fake Southern boy.
You live in Minnesota.
Right,
you are about as far from Southern as it gets.
Just because I live here, it doesn't mean
I need Kev.
Yeah, we miss
I'm about as much as a Yankee as you are a Southerner living in Arizona.
That's true. I'm a true Midwestern living in the Southwest and reminded on a daily basis that I have a goofy accent.
I had one of the best compliments at work the other day, and a customer asked me where I was from. I was like, oh, I live in Minnesota, but I'm from Texas. He goes, oh, I thought you had a little Southern tinge to you. You didn't sound like a Yankee at all. And I said, that's probably the best compliment I've ever had in my life, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sir, can we shake hands?
Yeah, my twang comes out the later it gets in the evening. So if I start getting tired, you're going to hear a lot of y'alls and yeehaws.
How about with the amount of, like, is there a direct correlation of beer to twang?
I don't think so. Like I told you all beforehand, I don't drink much, so it probably wouldn't be good for me if I did.
Yeah, you definitely would not have survived Vegas with us. So I think a lot of people, we're going to cover a little bit of history.
Thanks for the invite again, guys.
We invited you once we got there.
Invitation, by the way.
Yeah, Jess made it happen.
As you guys are there, as you guys are partying, hey, Aaron, come on down. Yeah, let me just, get on my private jet.
I think it was a little less
I didn't
dorky
get a
than that.
personalized invitation. I just said, I'll come down to Vegas.
Yeah, and Jess made it happen in like 4 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But so we did a little cross podcast meetup in Vegas. I don't really even know what it was for, but Kevin and Matt and then some of their friends were flying down to Vegas, and they said, "Hey, Eric, come on up." And I'm like, "All right, hey Jess, come on out." And it just turned into this big shit show that landed in Vegas, and they got there. They were there for a week, and we came for 3 days. And upon arriving, my wife and I get out of the car and we meet Jess at the Stratosphere, and then we take a monorail over to meet Matt and Kevin and their friends. And Kevin, in all of his just beautiful glory, the dude didn't pack for his trip. I mean, I'm not like I can't tell this story any better than him, but since he's not here, the way that Eads told it was Eads picked Kevin up to go to the airport. He said, "Dude, I'm going to be here at this time." Eads shows up at that time, rings the doorbell. Kevin is sitting on the couch, and he gets up and he goes, "Oh, all right, I guess we should go." Packed nothing other than a suitcase with $1,500 cash and a pair of underwear.
He tweeted a picture.
That was it. It was absolutely
He had
it.
socks, too.
Was there?
Socks and underwear.
Was there a deal going down or something? That sounds.
I don't know how he got through security carrying all that money. But he showed up and he bought an ugly-ass pair of yellow shoes and some gross swim trunks and just hung out with his shirt off most of the time.
I found the picture.
That was Kevin or that was Matt?
No, that was Kevin.
All right.
Yeah. Matt actually wore clothes. But the whole trip just turned into sitting around by the pool and just shooting the shit for 3 days and having a grand old time. We went to the, what was that, the night thing? The night dinner? What is that? Knights of the Round. No. Excalibur?
Excalibur, yeah, Knights of the Round Table dinner
Knights
thing.
thingy, yeah.
Yeah, and Jess was super
Medieval
high
times,
maintenance
whatever.
with her gluten-free meal.
Oh my God,
and
they almost killed me.
they gave her a chicken with bread on it and it almost killed her. So the dude brought her a fruit plate and some handy wipes, and that was about her dinner. Good $70.
It was beautiful.
But no, it was cool. It was definitely cool to finally meet up with Jess, and
Must have been a bargain for Jess.
it wasn't.
Coming
It wasn't a
from
bargain
Canada.
for anyone.
$70?
No.
Yeah, it's like a
Oh my
Happy Meal up
God.
there.
Yeah, but my stupid flight was delayed, and my flight home was beautiful. Beautiful timing on my part. So good. So good.
Yeah, what time did you leave?
Well, the flight, so I could only book a flight back either the day after, which I couldn't do because I had to work, or the flight left at 6:30 in the morning in Vegas. So that means I had to be at the airport at 4:30, which
And
means that I had to leave the hotel at like 4 o'clock. And so
In the
in my
morning?
brilliant mind, I was like, why go to bed? Why just not stay up all night? We're in Vegas. Let's just make this happen. So that was the game plan, to stay up all night and fly home.
we almost made it too. I think we stayed up till about I stayed up till about 3.
Yeah, I stayed up the whole time.
Jeez.
I went back because you left at 3:30, and I went up to pack at 3:30,
Ugh.
and then I just packed and then left.
Well, we sat
And-
down and played penny slots for like 5 hours, and we just found one tucked away in the back corner, and we horribly attempted to light cigars with 9 books of matches. We had to have looked like attempted arsonists over there because we're trying to light them one match at a time, and finally I look at Jess and she looks at me, and we both had the same idea. It's like, let's just light this whole damn pack on fire. And it's just this huge flame billowing up from behind this penny slot, and the waitress comes by, and she's probably trying to figure out what the hell's going on. She's like, "Here are your drinks." We're trying to light cigars with books of matches. It's just a terrible, terrible event.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and the
we
amount of
made it.
vodka Red Bulls we consumed.
Yeah, it was rough. So, other than that, what else have you guys been up to? It's been a while. Jess, let's start with you. Anything exciting in 2 minutes?
Schoolwork. That's it.
You're
all I got.
You lead a fascinating life.
I know.
I got school.
My kittens are good.
Yeah, how many do you have now?
Kittens.
2.
2.
Zoe and Kaylee.
Okay.
And they love each other. And that's it.
This is a terrible conversation.
Oh no. Sorry. I'm boring.
Good.
I'm really boring. I'm holding on to some stuff for when we talk about games. I'll bring that up.
All right.
Aaron, what have you been up to?
Oh, geez. Let's see. Just mainly work and kind of being a hermit, and then chasing older boys away from my daughter.
Okay,
And,
chasing older boys.
Yeah, I had to put the law down on one of the boys that was trying to get in there. And
Could you choose a worse descriptor?
huh? I probably could, but
chase away, getting in there.
look, man, as an older boy trying to date my young daughter, and I put a stop to it. I was done. So that happened. Let's see, teaching my daughter how to drive, didn't doing that, and yeah, that's about it, really. I guess I'm pretty boring too.
How did the driving lessons go? Did you tell her to just dump the car if anything goes wrong?
It's just tip it, run.
No, the driving the car's been pretty good. She's a pretty good driver. She's gets more nervous on herself than anything else. So, otherwise, she's pretty good.
Good.
So,
I miss my days of teaching driver's ed.
You taught driver's ed?
Yeah, I taught driver. That's how I paid my way through college.
I thought I was stripping.
Well, I combined the two.
It was
I'm pretty sure that's why you
Yeah.
had the awesome moves in Vegas.
Dude, my moves were sweet. What
Like
were
the
they
one time
again?
you got on the table, that was really
Whoa.
good. And
Yeah.
you pushed the stripper off the table just so
Yeah.
you could bust out the move.
She's lying. The stripper invited me up.
That seems like a very important part of that story that you missed.
I
We
was
didn't
wearing
do a strip
one of
club.
their outfits too.
I know that Eric had a baby, and then we never heard from him for like 6 months.
Yeah, dude, babies take up a ton of time.
Yeah. I just want to bring up the point that you said that nothing will change,
Well, nothing.
and we both told you it's going to change. You're not going to have time.
Don't
and look
tell
what
me
happened.
my business.
You owe me one thin dime. That's all I'm saying.
Thin dime. Is that a Southern gentleman's proposition? Do I need to provide it to you with a white glove?
It would be helpful.
Okay. It'll be a thick dime just because I don't like you.
Take that, buddy.
Suck it.
Yeah.
I feel like dimes are very regulated in terms of their thickness and weight and all of those things. So
Hey,
good luck.
hey, Jess, I have
with
a
that.
question for you. Is Canada no longer have pennies? Did they get rid of pennies
We got
finally?
loonies
or
and
is it-
toonies.
Yeah, we got rid of pennies.
You got rid of pennies.
Do you guys have anything less than $1 coin?
Yeah,
Oh.
we have. Really, we have all the same coinage as you, except for pennies.
Your money has boobs on it.
Boobs.
Yes, the $5 bill has statues with boobs on it.
What?
That is the
Is that the
only
first
thing I
boob
walked
you
away
ever
from
saw?
my trip to
$5
Canada.
bills?
Yes, when I went up to Canada, Matt and Kevin paid me some money in fives, and I kept all of the ones that had boobs on them. Apparently, there was a huge recall, but there's
Oh,
boobs
I
on the
didn't-
statue, and everybody got super offended.
Oh,
That's weird.
huh. Did not know that.
Yeah.
But our money smells like maple syrup.
It does not. I read the study that the government put out, and they said we don't douse all of our money in maple syrup.
No, it's just because the peoples that are transferring money, their hands are full of maple syrup because they're just eating
That's-
flapjacks all day,
Yeah.
and then that's how it gets out in the public.
That's true because all of Americans' money is laced with cocaine because that's all we're doing.
Yeah, we roll it up
Yeah.
and then we use it to sniff in the $1 bill.
They did a
True story.
I think it was on Mythbusters. They figured out how many $1 bills you'd have to get the cocaine from in order to get high.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember. So that was a poor story. Poor
Isn't it?
story.
Yeah. Thanks for really leaving us hanging there.
It's from my wallet. It'd be one $1 bill.
It's right next to the bag, right there.
The green, it says the green doesn't fade, but it fades.
Oh gosh.
Oh man, Nick, how about you, buddy? What have you been up to?
kids, work, all that fun stuff. You guys are talking about having girls. I'm so happy I don't have girls. I couldn't imagine what Aaron's going through right there. I don't even want to think about that. I would spoil the girl first of all, and then
I can't wait.
You can't wait.
Oh man, because I had two cousins who were about 10 years younger than I was. So when I was in high school and college, they were going through middle school, and oh my god, it's so much fun to embarrass girls. Because they would be out cheerleading, and I'd be in the stands, and I'd catch their eye and just make a complete ass of myself.
Man, you're going to be a great dad.
I can't wait, dude.
You're going to be like the old man dad, and you're not even going to be an old man.
Heck yeah.
Oh my god, he has the worst dad jokes already.
My dad jokes are sweet.
Your dad jokes are terrible.
Oh, they're pretty flippin' sweet. My new favorite internet meme is the walking dad jokes with Rick and Carl.
Yeah.
Those are super funny.
But you seriously didn't have them until you became a dad. Like in Vegas,
No.
you were just like dad joke after dad joke after dad joke. It was insane.
Jess,
Yes.
I am a dad.
I know.
So,
I just
guys,
didn't
back me
realize
up on
it
this.
happened that quickly.
Back me up on this. Nick and Aaron, dad jokes are a way of life.
They pretty much are.
Yeah, you have to. Moms can't pull them off. Mom jokes suck.
And the problem is, like, to us, they're not really jokes. They're just how we say things.
Yeah.
But it turns out to actually sound like a joke.
Plus, I'm almost 30, so I'm making that comedy transition to crappy comedy.
Oh,
God.
It's a rough part of life.
you're almost 32, huh? That's
Ugh.
Yeah.
30 as well.
I got 2 years as well.
crap. I turned 30.
Yeah, don't say you're almost 30.
Yeah, I'm 30
I'm
in April.
closer to
so-
30 than I am to 20.
I know. Shut up. Shut up. I don't like to think that way.
Yeah, with the kids thing, it's pretty hilarious because I think my wife's raising me along with the kids because she's constantly she's like telling me, "Would you stop bothering them?" It's I'm like, sorry,
Leave them alone.
yeah, stop egging them on.
They're finally quiet, Nick. Come on.
Yeah,
I was playing Octodad last night, and I don't know if you guys have ever played that on the PS4, but one of the first missions is you have to chop wood, and Ellie had gone to bed, and I'm sitting out there just having a fucking roaring time to myself, just screaming at the wood, and she looks at me like, "You're gonna wake Ellie up, and then you're gonna have to put her back to sleep." I'm like, "I don't have the boobs." Yeah, I start chopping the rest of the wood.
I don't have the boobs. Okay.
I don't. I'm physically incapable of getting her to sleep. At
You
least
have
for,
teeth.
Ugh.
I mean, they don't.
You know, they you can buy the fake boobs that you
Dude.
can wear.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
gross.
yeah.
That's
no.
so.
That's
No,
so
thanks.
funny.
I wonder how people would look at you in public if you did that.
You're not supposed to wear them in public.
Okay, but
Why not?
let's.
I would rock
Life
that.
lessons from Aaron Robinson.
Women can breastfeed in public. Why can't men?
Women cannot breastfeed in public. People get shat on
You're not.
all
Yeah,
the
you're not
time.
supposed to breastfeed in
You
public.
should breastfeed
But
in
who
public.
cares?
Do
You've
whatever
been
you want.
breastfeeding's been
Pull
going
them
on since the
titties
dawn of
out.
time.
If anybody
Yeah.
ever approached my wife and told her you need to go feed that kid in the bathroom, I would probably be in jail.
Do it. Just smack them. Get her to smack them.
I don't know. I get a little weirded out when people like just flop their boob out and like don't take measures to cover it up.
Yeah, be discreet. You know.
Yeah, I feel like there's that
Why?
fine line. Like there comes a point, and we'll make this a short conversation, but there comes a point when it's like, okay, you're going a little too far to make your point.
False
And-
statement though, because guys have their shirts off all of the time, and that's totally fine.
I mean, I'm not
but
against
girls can't
it.
breastfeed.
I'm not
No.
against it, but there are people out there that are going to be offended by it. So instead of you saying, I'm the only one that matters, take into
I am,
consideration. Oh, well, you'd fit really well into America.
No. I don't know. There's this America.
No. I don't know. I haven't been too terribly busy aside from the kid. I had a few job interviews.
Keeping an infant alive.
Yes, trying to keep
Yeah.
an infant alive.
They're pretty easy to do as infants. They pretty much take care of themselves.
I feel like that's not actually accurate.
No. It's like I can't wait for my youngest to get out of diapers. I swear, if I have to change their diaper again, it's just
See, I don't. Okay, this is going back to kids. I don't understand how parents can go through raising kids using disposable diapers? Like, financially, how can you do it?
Yeah.
Because we
I don't
cloth
know.
diaper. I don't understand how people can afford
It's expensive.
disposables.
It's very expensive.
And rechargeable batteries. If you don't have rechargeable batteries for your kids, you're going broke.
Man.
Life lessons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
See-
I'm all over that. We have disposable diapers and no rechargeable batteries. So.
Are you guys in financial dire straits? Because I may have an out for you.
Yeah, my internet may just shut down here soon. Can't pay the bills.
See, I'm thinking about if I ever have a kid again, I'm gonna go buy a barn.
You're going to go buy a
Man.
bar?
I'm gonna go buy a barn, and then
Are
I'm
you
literally
saying
going
bar
to get
or
to run
barn?
around the barn, so that way when he gets older, and so are you raised in a barn? And he can say, yeah.
That was
That's that
such
way.
a dad joke.
That's a
too.
dad joke.
God,
That way he can
that's
just run
suck.
around and learn how to potty train himself. I don't have to worry about diapers. I don't have to worry about anything. Live in a barn.
Stop being so mature.
So I do apologize that I
It's
got
No
busy
electronics.
and we had to cancel the show. But I did start another project in the meantime that I want to give a little bit of a plug to. Over the course of the past year, my friend and I have been doing a writing project where we give each other random topics every week, and then we have a week to create a short story out of it. And we've started slowly posting some of those to a website that we've put them on called desperatepiece.com. Kind of a play on the separate piece in case you're not at your age.
Oh my god.
So yeah, they range from like really super serious stuff to super goofy, stupid shit. Like I think the dumbest thing I ever had to write about was a story about old MacDonald losing his farm subsidy, and just anything goes. So I haven't been completely stagnant in my projects, but there's been that itch. And Jess and I, over drinks in Vegas, decided we need to bring this thing back, and here we are 4 months later bringing it back.
Hey,
When-
I was messaging you every single week, and I was like, please, just come hang out with me. And you're like, no, I'm a big dick. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's pretty much
How
how
come
the
you never-
conversation went.
You never invited me to hang out, Jess.
Yeah, I did.
So
I messaged you
good.
every other week, and you're like, go blow yourself.
What? That's a total lie.
Holy cow.
I don't would have told you to go blow yourself. I would have used better terminology than that. But
You guys are mean to Jess.
For the
Good grief.
she didn't.
I know. What a bunch of dicks.
I was gonna get in touch with you, Jess, though, but I was chickened out. I was like, "Hey, Jess, let's do a show without Eric, since he's too busy."
Yeah, fuck that dad.
I'd love to see how that show turns out. How do you record it?
We could have figured it out.
Can we just do it over the phone and then they can tap
On
into
three,
it?
on two, on one, on go.
Let's just-
Count down from 10.
Don't worry, I would have let it all show on there. I would have let this unfiltered. We'd have been factory sealed, unfiltered,
X-rated,
unedited.
not available in Australia.
No director, no editor's cut.
Nice. So I think we should talk a little bit about the changes that we're proposing for this show. For the past 6 months, I'm going to use it like we spent the past 6 months talking about how to make this show better, but we really did. But I just want to make it sound like we did. So we felt like the show was growing a little stagnant, and a lot of the old retro games, although they're really good, don't necessarily have a lot of talking points. For as good as Zombies Ate My Neighbors is, you really can't have a lot of good conversation about that unless everybody involved is really versed in the history of the game and the development and has a bunch of stories from their childhood and
Plays fucking games.
yeah, actually plays the games. But we decided we wanted to broaden that out a little bit. We still want to focus mainly on retro games, but I feel like there's so much happening in the gaming world that we can talk about modern games alongside retro games, because there's definitely that crossover for the conversation. So when we're working on a longer retro game that we want to play, a lot of us still play modern games that we can talk about as well. So that it's still going to be a retro video game podcast, but be aware that we will begin from here forward also talking about modern games.
Side note, folks, this is Eric's way of being able to talk about Skyrim on every episode without getting in trouble.
I'm down.
Down. But when Fallout 4 comes out, we're not talking about that.
Oh, come on.
Fuck you. It's happening.
I love Fallout.
Don't let Jess know that, because it's
okay.
fun to...
I hate Fallout.
Thank you.
No!
Well,
When we were
Fallout's
in the Lucky
great.
38, he had to go to Vegas with me when, like, New Vegas all of the time. And we stayed in the Lucky 38, and that was awesome. And it was so fun.
I did that on purpose because I knew she had a huge female boner for New Vegas, and because it's the cheapest.
See, I didn't really like New Vegas, though, Jess. It was something about it. Just
New Vegas was cool.
Because you could only play like 10 seconds at a time without it bugging.
Or delete.
That's pretty much
save.
it, too. That was another part of it. But
There were so many good features. It's beautiful.
yeah.
So, what do you guys think? Does that sound like a a good plan moving forward?
Us? I feel like we've all decided.
I think so.
That was more of a rhetorical question for the audience. So, I think, with emails, you guys could still obviously send us emails with suggestions for things that things we should play. But as you write in those emails, try to keep in mind like the game itself, and before you suggest it, think about, does this game really have any substance? Like Goof Troop, should we have really?
Yes, I feel like we should have it.
Goof Troop was okay, but like Battletoads, great game, super fun to play with friends, but really not a good podcast game.
What about
Just a thought. We're just expressing the new format of the show, and obviously the inclusion of Mr. Nick Stevens. He will be here to stay, and occasionally, as Kevin wanted to put it, he will be a regular guest if he can make it, as long as it's not Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays.
right?
And probably not the weekends. So we've got Monday and Wednesday for Kevin.
I'm just going to throw this down that the male breastfeeding boobs are called Mr. Milker.
Yeah, see? I'm totally going to get some and start just
You can
flipping it out.
So
in public.
that way, when the guy says your wife can't breastfeed, then you can just whip out your Mr. Breast
And
start
I love
feeding
that.
your kid.
Look at the
Right
picture
there.
for this thing. That cowboy dude is holding that one baby upside down by his toes.
Well, because he's Mr. Milker, he can do whatever the fuck
Yeah.
he wants.
How does this thing
Right.
work? I've honestly never heard of this.
See, I
So
was
basically, guys,
there's
you
bottles
get the
in
milk and you pump the milk in, and it's like a bottle, and then so the nipple would be like
is that thing bulletproof?
Yeah, it looks like a
It
bulletproof
looks like
vest.
a big old Kevlar vest.
Is
Go
this
to-
You guys,
is this a comfort thing or I mean, could you?
Well, see, I was thinking when I pictured this, I was picturing like authentic silicone representation boobs that you would fill with milk, and then that way the baby would be tricked into thinking, "Oh, hey, this is mom's boob," and then they would look up and see the beard and be like, "What the hell happened?"
yeah, but those are $2,500.
Are they really? They exist?
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
No. You're a dumbass.
those are expensive.
Oh.
But I feel like if they were actually legitimate real boobs, that would be like every guy's dream, because they would just play with
That's
their
not,
boobs all the time.
you obviously understand nothing about the male psychology.
The male psychology.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Male
that's
psyche.
definitely not true. Because
You guys watch Meet the Fockers?
oh gosh,
I've got nipples. I've got teeth. Greg, can you
You
milk me?
can milk me.
Your teeth.
Or, no, maybe it's Meet the Parents. Not Meet the Parents, whatever. The other one, yeah.
Yeah.
Meet the Fockers,
And-
that's the one.
and see the fatter I got in college, the more I wanted to get rid of my boobs. So we'll just put that out there.
It's who they're attached to that's important.
Exactly.
That's right.
So, all right, I feel like we should start talking about video games because we're 30 minutes into this, and all we've talked about is alcohol and boobs.
It's about normal for us.
Yeah,
Getting back in the swing of things.
a little bit. Plus, Aaron, I know that you have a time frame.
I do have a little bit of time frame.
So, The big news in the gaming world right now is PlayStation has now turned 20.
Don't
all cheer at once.
Just makes me feel really old.
I didn't know if that was like, are we having a party? What's going on?
Was PlayStation not as big of a thing for you guys as it was for me?
No, it was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like
was
PlayStation
big.
defined my 5th grade through middle school years.
But I wasn't sure what the reaction you wanted was. Like, should we be clinking glasses? Like, what?
I wanted authentic. Like, I've got 2... Oh, shit, this is a wine glass from a few nights ago. Like that.
See, this is where... See, I was in high school when that came out. And you guys were kids.
Jesus, you're that old?
Oh, gosh.
I'm kidding, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm that old.
What are you, like 33?
Huh?
You're like 33, right?
No.
37?
No.
Okay, just tell me I hate this game.
I'm 35.
Okay. So
I'll be
right in the
36 next year.
Okay. Yeah, it's not old.
Which is a few months now. But yeah, I was in high school, so for me it was like the big thing, and it wasn't until Final Fantasy came out that I got really on board with it. Yeah, I mean it was a big. The PlayStation 2 was a bigger deal.
How did you guys get introduced to PlayStation? Like, what was your first experience with it?
My first.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Like,
you know what?
We had a.
Here on, let me pull out my script. We're off. All right.
How'd you get
Aaron,
the script?
I'm gonna go.
Go for it, bud.
My first experience with the PlayStation was when one of my friends in high school, which we'd call him the rich kid, I suppose, because he got all the new toys right away.
Like me.
And went over to his house and played some Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was kind of a weird setup because I was so used to the Super Nintendo controller, which is what I was using for a long time. So like the new configuration of the Sony controller was kind of similar, but at the same time.
Well, that was before they had the DualShock
analog,
sticks.
the DualShock sticks, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if many people have ever actually used that because they introduced the analog or the DualShock shortly thereafter, but
yeah,
I still have mine.
I remember when they came out, and it was totally confusing. I remember they were going to make a thing where, like, I remember when it was like, okay, when this thing came out, you're going to be able to move like you could nowadays, right? Like you could use the right and left analog stick to do that, but it didn't actually work that way.
No.
And for a very, very long time. And then, like, when I was playing Siphon Filter, it was like tank motions pretty much. And then when that thing came out, it was very hard to use the analog sticks. I just kept using the old-fashioned way. And now when I go back to it, it's like I don't even know how to use it without analog sticks anymore.
Yeah, it's like trying to go back and play the very first Resident Evil is brutal. It's still a great game, but I can understand why a lot of these games, if you did not grow up with them, the games stand the test of time. The controls sure as shit don't.
Yeah.
Nick, what was your first experience with PlayStation?
I did get it for Christmas, like in 1994. My dad played a lot of games, so I think he rented it at one time without me knowing to make sure it was okay. So The funny thing was I got Tekken, which I love fighting games, and I played that game for like 3 hours straight without turning it off, unlocked a bunch of characters, turned it off, turned it back on, and they were all gone. I didn't know. It's like, oh, a memory card, what's this? No clue what a memory card was, so that it took me like a week to realize there wasn't internet back then, so I couldn't go Google.
Thank goodness I'm not the only one.
Okay.
I think we all went through that.
I played it for 24 hours, and then I was like, I got to save it. How do I do that?
Yep.
I did the same thing with Oddworld. That was the first game I had on mine, and I got about halfway through the game and turned it off and turned it back on. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, maybe I'll play Tomb Raider. So I did the same thing with Tomb Raider, and no luck.
Yeah. And the coolest thing, I thought, we had Ridge Racer too, and you could, like in the middle of the game, you could pop the CD out and put one of your own CDs in and listen to the track while you're playing the game.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
You could do that you could do the reverse thing with Tomb Raider 2. You could take the CD and put it in a CD player, and it would play the soundtrack of the game.
Yeah. And wasn't there like a track that you couldn't listen to? It was always all screwed up. You had to skip it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that was bad coding. I don't know what it was. What, Jess?
Weren't there a couple of those that you could do that?
Yeah, so every PlayStation game I ever got, I always put it in the CD player. I'm like, all right, we get it. Oh.
Yeah.
Do you still have a CD player?
Well, I did back then. I had one with 30-second ESP. God.
Is that the shock protection?
Yeah, electronic skip
God,
protection.
I remember
Because I was a
that.
skateboarder. I had to have 30-second skip protection.
Oh my God.
I had a jacket with pockets big enough for my CD player. Get off.
Oh my God.
You remember trying to
That
show
was a true struggle that a lot of kids nowadays will not understand,
Nah.
is not being able to fit your CD player in your pocket.
Yeah.
Now you got all these little MP3 players in their phones. Like, where the hell do I put this thing? So half the time I'd be skating down the road holding it.
Well, that's why they don't have.
Didn't they have?
That's why they
Go
didn't have
ahead.
skinny. That's why they didn't have skinny jeans back then. You couldn't fit them. You couldn't fit a big CD
Jinko
player.
jeans. You could fit like
Oh,
4
gosh.
CD players in those.
I had the Jinkos.
Jinkos.
Jeez. Jess, how about you?
Those were
What was your
huge.
first?
I've been trying to think the entire time, and it's not really working.
So it really must not have been very influential.
No, I was more Nintendo, playing PlayStation at people's houses, but we never had one.
Well,
until
If I
PS2.
remember right, when PlayStation first came out, it was this big unknown. Everybody is like, what is this? Because in gaming, everybody knew Sega and they knew Nintendo. And when somebody new showed up that was supposed to be that much better, everyone is obviously going to be a little bit skeptical. Like, I'm just going to go back to my Marios and my Sonics. And I was kind of the same way. And I wanted a Nintendo 64. So that first Christmas, I remember leading up to it and just hearing people talking about the PlayStation. And my uncle lived in Australia at the time, and he was going through a little bit of a depression, and he called me up. He's like, hey, I just went out and blew like $700. I'm like, what'd you buy? And he's like, I bought one of those PlayStations. And, I really looked up to my uncle, and he was talking to me about it. I'm like, dude, that sounds pretty cool. And then the next day, I remember one of my other uncles talking about this new Resident Evil game. And it just really piqued my interest. And for me, it was one of those things about just the not necessarily the hype, but just the word of mouth was super cool to remember, that people talking about it and how, like, this is, seeing the cover of the magazine that had Resident Evil with the snake coming out of the chimney, and they're like, this is the future of video games. And what really cinched it for me was, I don't think I got it the first year that it came out, but what really cinched it for me was one of my buddies brought over the PlayStation and had Final Fantasy VII. And I know that sounds like a super cliche thing, but I was always into Final Fantasies, and I'd seen the commercials for Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, that looks super cool, but I didn't know how I would like to transition to the 3D world. And he brought it over, and I went to my grandma and said, Grandma, I have to have this for Christmas. And little did I know, she had already bought me the N64, but somehow, and
Grandma, you're so ungrateful.
Well, I didn't know this, but
Yeah,
somehow, and I honestly still thank my mom for this to this day, because I don't know how she did it. At the time, my parents were split, and she was raising 2 kids. She saved up enough to go out and buy me a PlayStation for Christmas. So that Christmas, I got an N64 and a PlayStation
You dick.
and Final Fantasy VII.
Wow.
And you better damn well believe that when we got back to school and they went through the class and said, hey, what did everybody get for Christmas? I raised my hand and said, I got an N64 and a PlayStation.
Yeah.
If I would have had a microphone, I would have dropped it.
That's how you got so many friends.
Yeah, it was sweet. But no, like, just the PlayStation itself. Thinking back to, who is it that was talking about Crash Bandicoot? Was that you, Nick? No, it was Aaron.
That was me.
Yeah, like, Crash Bandicoot was this first killer title that everyone's like, what the hell is this thing? And it was, we were talking about it at school, and one kid had it, and he's like, you guys got to play this. So we'd all go over to his house and play Crash Bandicoot, and then we'd all go home and we're like, we got to play this game. And just, it was super cool because the internet didn't exist, and we would just learn about games through word of mouth, and our friends would come over and show us the game. We're like, this is what's really cool about this. And then they would take it home with them, and you would just sit and obsess about it. And you're like, I want that. I want it. I want it. And, a bunch of my friends, we went out and got paper routes so we could fund buying video games. And that was back before they would check IDs. So I remember going to the store and buying Resident Evil 2, and I was like 6th grade, 7th grade. buying M-rated games and Silent Hill and all of that stuff. But
Yeah, no one cared then.
no, absolutely not. Nobody even gave you a second look. Like, dude, that game is sick. Here you go.
I was gonna say, like, there's no way that you could like pull off being 16, 18, 18.
No, I was a little baby face.
I'd be
But
so nervous. I could never do that. I never
Well,
would buy alcohol underage too. Made me
No,
too
but
nervous.
think about this in terms of games versus alcohol. I mean, alcohol has been around for thousands of years. Violent video games, to the extent of which they were being introduced at that time, were very, very new. And a lot of people, your basic everyday cashier who doesn't play games, and even people who did play games, probably wouldn't understand to the capacity of like, wow, these are super violent. Kids shouldn't be playing these.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last game I remember being able to buy underage, an M-rated game, was Grand Theft Auto 3, and that was kind of the shift when they started like, wait a minute, we should start checking IDs, and the ESRB came in and was a little bit more proactive in checking, making sure like kids don't play this stuff.
Yeah, I pulled that off too because I think I was 17 when that game came out, and I was at a Kmart and a guy just walked back there and handed it to me. Didn't even ask for it. So
Yeah. Because a lot of people didn't know what it was. Because Grand Theft Auto before was just this kind of relatively unknown PC and PS1 game. But you better believe after that, it's like, oh, hell no. When I worked at GameStop, I'd always make a point to, kids would come up and they'd want Grand Theft Auto 3 or Vice City, and I'd look at the mom and go, now, I just want to make you aware that you can pick up hookers in this game, and they'll perform sexual services on you, but you can pay them, and as soon as they get out of the car, you can murder them and get your money back. Is this something you really want your kid to play? And they're like, oh my
You
god,
were so popular.
oh, I was super popular. But what was really really scary were the parents were like, yeah, whatever.
those are the parents
Yeah,
that just send their
pretty
kids to their room and don't want anything to do with
Oh
them.
yeah.
So here you go.
There you go. Go away. I don't want to see you until it's time for me to take you to school where I don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. Back to PlayStation, like for you guys, was it kind of that defining moment where we all grew up playing games, but I don't think for me at least, it wasn't until PlayStation hit that I'm like, I need this in my life. It didn't become an obsession, but like for me, it was, this is something that I'm going to do. And this is something that's going to be a part of me, because you're starting to see that games were just more than side-scrolling Mario. They were actually unfolding stories and sagas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the games became more real because you look back now, they don't look so great. But I remember playing Resident Evil when it came out when I was like 12 or 13. Yeah, my brother told me to rent it, and I popped it in real late at night. Lights are out, and I literally turned it off and ran and found my mom. I was scared to death of that game. So I mean, it was.
And that's the thing, is playing those games with your friends. My sister and I grew up playing the Resident Evil games together, and whenever a new one would come out, we would stay up all night and play it.
Yeah.
And I remember playing Resident Evil 3, where Nemesis follows you around. He's like, stars. And we had a really good sound system in our living room, and we'd crank that thing up and sit there in the middle of the living room just all huddled together playing that and just losing our minds because it was terrifying because we'd never played games like that before. And when you're walking through and zombies are popping out of the cop cars, and it was such a fun time to actually play games because everything was so new that I don't know. I feel like when new games come out now, we kind of have that sense of, well, I've seen this and I've done that, or this game is like that and this game is like that. But back then it was like, holy shit, this game is awesome. And you really
I think we'll
didn't
see that too when like more of the AR stuff comes out, and like with stuff coming out for Oculus, and I think there hasn't really been anything that's revolutionary right now. I guess maybe Wii and like the controller, you are the controller stuff, but nothing really that.
But I mean, those are just alterations of how you interact with the game. The games themselves they're basically repeats of things that have been done before. It's very, very rare that a new game comes out that is completely brand new and innovative. And the ones that do are great. But I feel like with the PlayStation era and for somewhat, the N64 era with Ocarina of Time and absolutely Mario 64, but for me, it was more PlayStation. It's like these games were coming out, and every single one of them. I don't care if you go back now and they're super shitty, but at the time when you experienced them, they were incredible. Just because these were the first games that were doing that.
Yeah, and you know, Nintendo really screwed up. I don't know if you all knew about the partnership they had with Sony. They were they were developing a CD-ROM system, and Nintendo just kind of nixed a deal, and they went with Philips. And then Philips made that CDI, and they sent over like Zelda and the Mario games, which were awful, and they really messed up on that one.
Right.
Well, yeah, it wasn't Sony. Sony kind of backstabbed him on that whole deal, though, because there was who is it? Kutaragi? Is that the PlayStation? Ken Kutaragi? Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to Google it.
The original PlayStation was Yamaha. Not Yamaha. Yeah, Yamaha, right?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
But
I want to say
either way,
it was Yamaha.
Sony was supposed to make that attachment that turned it. What did it turn into? The N64 DD.
I think
that thing was like.
There's only like 12 games made for it, and half of them are Japanese, and 100% of them suck. But yeah, and then Sony's like, wait a minute, we're onto something with this CD format, because Sony they absolutely had a market on the format, and I feel like they've capitalized on that. They've done that for the past not this current generation, but PS1, PS2, and PS3. Sony they already had a corner on the market with CDs, and then they had a corner on the market with Ds. And what really sold the PS2 was having it a DVD player, because for me, that DVD player I ever owned. DVD players were just coming out, and they were ungodly expensive. I think I remember buying one for my mom, and it was like $250.
Yeah.
And then PS3 came out, and they had a corner on Blu-ray, and that won the console format wars. And like, if you look back, every time Sony's put out a console, they've had a corner on the market in some aspect, and they've just crushed the competition.
Right. Well, because they learned their lesson with the Betamax.
Yes.
Because they lost the Betamax war because of the porn industry.
Yes. Well, and not to mention, Betamax could only hold 58 minutes of video, so it couldn't even hold a full movie. So I think that's what really sunk Betamax.
What happened with the porn industry?
Well, basically, Sony wouldn't allow the porn industry to use Betamax to make movies. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Who made Laserdisc?
I believe that was also.
Have you ever seen
Sony.
Ben Schrader's Laserdisc collection?
No.
It's disgusting. There's no reason any full-grown man should have that many discs that are that large.
How does he display those things?
Yeah, large discs.
Well, for a while he had Labyrinth on Laserdisc, and the dude's got he's got a love affair with David Bowie, and he had it out and hung on the wall next to his Bowie poster. It's just,
dude, that'd be sweet.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had some.
I remember, like, when we were living together, I'd be getting ready to go to bed, and I'd pop my head into his room and see what he's doing. He's like pulling out this big ass laser disc to put in, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna watch this tonight. Just fucking watch it on DVD." No, it's better quality.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So
it's like listening to records compared to CDs. Like, the records is where it's at.
yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, so that's how it is for Ben. Yeah. Candyman.
I mean, I get that, but who has room for all those records? I mean, I would love to have room, but it's just so much easier to put it all on my phone.
Well, see, Ben doesn't have kids.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So thus,
Yeah, that's true.
thus he can make a 10-foot by 10-foot room be a mansion.
Yeah, because I finally just got a new house, and I have a basement where I was able to set up all my old video game systems. They used to just be in a box. Now they're all set up, ready to go. But for the first time ever.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, and I miss that, because in Arizona we don't have basements. So
Just build one.
with
Why
what?
do
a
you
shovel,
have basements? That's
Dig a
weird.
hole in your concrete and dig a hole underneath your house.
It's just the part of the I don't fucking know. Maybe the ground is too hard. It's all clay. If you were to
Wait,
have a
that could
basement
be
here,
so
it would be
cool.
filled with scorpions.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Yeah, no,
No thanks.
no way. But anyway, back to the PlayStation stuff.
Right.
I don't know. Other thoughts?
Well, part of the thing I think we've talked this before, but like, the problem with the video game industry now compared to then was back then, a lot of the games were storyline driven, and they had really good storyline. And even the games that had like a really crappy storyline were like, let's go save, like Earthworm Jim, for example. Let's go save Princess what's her name or whatever. Just like you just don't care. They just making stuff up so you can play the game. The gameplay was good.
They're focused on the mechanics.
And now it's all about what looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this isn't pretty.
This isn't 60 frames a second.
Oh, here's a shooter.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the same shooter with a different skin.
And here's the same shooter in the future.
Now, here's the same shooter, but I'm going to let you, now you can use this button in conjunction with this button and make you better than the guy who doesn't understand how to use button combinations.
And you can jump twice now.
You know, and that's the thing that, like, there's some good games that are out now that are fantastic. We all know about Skyrim, Fallout. I like the Far Cry series is really good, and they've really improved the Far Cry series. You got games like Assassin's Creed. So those games are out there.
They do what sells, and unfortunately, like when a new game comes out, like a new Assassin's Creed comes out, people will bitch that it's too similar to the previous versions, and then they'll bitch when it's too far away and they changed it too much. It's not true to the series. So
I think
it's unfortunate that they really just kind of go with what sells and what.
I think part of this is it falls into a catch-22 because the time frame that we're talking about in the mid 90s with PlayStation 1 and into the early era of PlayStation 2, video gaming wasn't mainstream. It was still kind of that niche thing that you didn't really talk to a ton of people about, but if you're a gamer and your buddy's a gamer, you guys would get together and you'd play games. Nowadays, gaming is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and it's very, very apparent that now they see that and they say, okay, gaming is mainstream. How can we make the most money out of it? And back then it was, how can we make good games so that we can get gaming to be mainstream?
Right.
And it ultimately shot itself in the foot.
Well, it kind of comes down to, I think, to the progression of the internet and how mainstream and how fast we get information and how fast that things, can do. It's all fast paced, right? So if you have a game like back then, even when PlayStation came out, and even in the PlayStation 2, if you wanted the insight, you had to go get a magazine, or you had to, get your Game Power, your Game Informer, or whatever it was, your Sony magazine, to find out about these new upcoming games that were 2 years away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you still get that in the magazine format, but it's like, okay, well, now it's Assassin's Creed. Well, we can't wait 2 years for another Assassin's Creed game, so we have to come out with one next November. How can we put one out real fast?
Well, and the problem is that you can know everything that there is to know about that game before it releases.
Right.
And I've got a buddy who does it. He'll read every available piece of literature about a video game before it comes out, and then he'll play it. Like, what's the point? You already know how it's going to end. You know everything about it. And for me, I love social media for a few things, but I think it's kind of a boon on the industry because, first of all, we fall victim to the hype train. And holy shit, don't even get me started on Destiny. That game is the hottest pile of shit that has probably come out in the past generation. I know a ton of people play it, but nobody can give a definitive reason as to why they play it. And I've got a buddy who loves it, and he says, I shouldn't love this game.
Oh, wow.
I played it and was able to peel myself away because what the hell is this?
I'm so glad you played it before I went out and bought the goddamn white PS4.
Oh, yeah. I called Jess and immediately said, do not waste your money on this. But the social media brings up hype, and there's no way that games can live up to their hype. Like, if Half-Life 3 were to actually come out, it would be terrible. Not because it would be a bad game, but because it would never live up to the expectations of the fans. And I feel like Fallout 4 is headed that way as well.
But really, like New Vegas, you can
only go up from there.
Do a hell lot better than New Vegas, yeah.
If they put the Elder Scrolls team in charge of, it might even be, but I don't know. If they just focused more on games coming out that aren't broken as shit.
But that's the thing too with deadlines. Like, it's such a push, and they can release shitty games that aren't finished and then just have a bunch of patches come out and then release half a game and come out with a bunch of DLC.
The problem is, as gamers, we're allowing that to happen because people are still purchasing these games on day one. And I've actually gone to great lengths to not purchase games on day one anymore because I don't want to get burned. Destiny, I could not get connected for the first week. I could not play online, and it was an online game. Just couldn't. Assassin's Creed Unity, broken as shit. The Crew was having issues. Halo, one of the most anticipated multiplayer shooters for Xbox One, still isn't functioning properly.
And didn't that all happen like in the same week? Like, all those games came out like
pretty much.
Yeah.
I picked up Far Cry 4,
and I heard that was okay. Some of the multiplayer stuff was broken.
There's some glitches in there. I don't do multiplayer, so I don't do the online co-op. I do the offline, but then you have to connect to the EA servers, and it's sometimes a pain because they'll drop you, or the Ubisoft server. Sorry, and then, but yeah, that one worked out good. But then the other games, it's like, where's the
accountability?
Yeah, and then also what I hate the most, and this is one of the reasons I was kind of getting tired of when I was working for GameStop and like having to push pre-orders and stuff, was like, why are you giving me day one DLC? Just put it in the freaking game.
Yeah. You know what really pissed me off? And it was the new Call of Duty, the Day Zero edition. It's like, this game comes out a day before the real game. It's like, what the hell is it? You get an extra gun and an exoskeleton.
Oh, and you'll probably get some achievement that says you got the day one edition.
And now they're doing DLC, or they're doing weekly achievements locked behind DLC for Destiny. And it's just, I'm actually losing interest in modern gaming for the reason that it's all just a big money grab. Everything is all about pay to win. We're seeing the mobile transition come to the consoles.
Yeah. But I do, and I am going to sound like a huge fucking hipster right now, but I've been really liking more indie stuff where it's not really about the money and the sales. Of course it is in some regards, but you don't get the games aren't as long, you don't have as much replay value, but they're...
Well, that's where
that's
where the game developers are taking risks, because these big AAA games are playing it safe. You know, Far Cry 4. I know I love Far Cry, but these indie games, I mean, if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have Minecraft, which is kind of I'm not a Minecraft fan, but that revolutionized what kids are playing today. You know,
oh yeah,
and things like that. But if that indie space wasn't there, I feel like we'd be playing the same old games.
Well, and I was looking through the chat comments here, and Hazmat was talking about the only way to inject creativity into the AAA scene is to allow new IPs. That way, you kind of break that cycle of this game is like that and this game's like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll ever happen for a couple reasons, and that's because they want to play it safe and they want to stick with the franchises that people know. I mean, my God, how many Assassin's Creed games are there now? Like 19?
A bazillion.
Yeah, but here's something that you're going to find interesting from me. This is something that happened to me recently. Call of Duty. I'm not a big fan of Call of Duty. I recently did Battlefield Bad Company 2 and played it to the end. I got it for free on Xbox Live. I've probably the third time or fourth time I've got the game and actually put it in, played it. And I beat it, and I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it so much that it got me excited to play the new Call of Duty game because they put Kevin Spacey in the game.
Yeah, see, and
quite literally, I bought the game just so I can watch Kevin Spacey's CGI acting.
I did the same thing. I loved that game. I swore off Call of Duty after Modern Warfare 3. I played through the campaign, never touched the multiplayer, and said, I'm done with this series. But the more I kept reading about the new Call of Duty, and I really enjoyed Titanfall for the new mechanics that it injected into the game, but Titanfall was super paper thin. It just wore really thin fast. Mm-hmm. And I saw it on sale at Walmart on Black Friday and said, what the hell? And holy shit, that game is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty. I haven't played it since I bought Far Cry 4. But
if you don't care about plot holes in the storyline, the game's great. Kevin Spacey, awesome actor. Totally cool to see him in a video game. But back to the intellectual properties, like, we're never going to see Call of Duty go away. We're never going to see Assassin's Creed go away. There are certain IPs that it's like, it's good that they keep coming back, like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Grand Theft Auto, because they don't pump them out every year. There's 6 years in between these games. and they give them time to develop.
And the other thing, if you go back to Jess's point about the indie games, if you look at some of the indie games that are out there, I don't know them all, so maybe I'm incorrect here, but a lot of them are single player.
What are?
Some of the indie games you can get out there,
Yeah.
like the free games or the cheaper games, the ones that are not mainstream. They're all single player, and they're great.
Yeah, and I probably sound like a hipster when I say this too, but like my favorite game of the whole year is Shovel Knight. I don't know if you all play that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I was hoping somebody else has played that.
So I was on another podcast talking nothing but that game, but
it's so good.
It's fantastic, and I do sound like a hipster because everyone always asks me, "What's your favorite game of the year?" And I just flat out say Shovel Knight. Yep.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Shovel Knight. It's on the 3DS.
Knight. Oh, that's probably why.
It's coming to PS4.
Yeah.
Forever.
But
Right.
no, I do enjoy
we'll
the
just
indie scene.
Claim hipster. Like I have hipster banks now. We're just
Well, I think part of it too, though,
hipster.
is we've all grown up in a different gaming era,
Sure.
and I think a lot of our listeners are younger, and they're growing up in this era. So maybe 15 years from now, whatever the hell the gaming scene looks like, they're going to look back at the PS3, PS4 era as fondly as we look back at the PS1, early PS2 era. You know, where games were new and innovative, and they're all going to be saying, like, remember when we didn't have to strap all this shit to our bodies to play video games? We could just sit down with a controller.
Was it Back to the Future 2 where they picked up Hogan's Alley's guns? Like, you got to use your
Yeah.
hands. That's a baby's toy.
Yeah.
But one of the new trends that did you guys watch the PlayStation Experience keynote this past weekend?
no.
I listened
did you?
to a few podcasts about it, but I didn't actually watch it.
So you've probably heard by now that Square Enix pretty much trolled the entire gaming
Yeah.
industry. You guys heard about that, right?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII. Yeah.
Yeah, so Square gets up on stage, and everyone's like, well, great, what are they going to announce now? You know, at first I was thinking, okay, maybe they're going to announce that they're going to bring Tomb Raider to the PS4, and then, boom, they put up the Final Fantasy VII logo. And years and years and years and years of just like, okay, this is never going to happen, and coming to terms with the fact that, whatever, we don't need this. But I finally saw that up, and I was watching it with my wife, and she looks at me like, is he going to get excited about this? And like, part of me did. Like, oh my God, it's actually happening. And I told Christy, I said, we might be seeing history here. And they start rolling the credits, and it was the same gameplay. And like, you could just feel this collective fucking A come from everybody in the gaming industry watching that, because it's like, nobody wants that.
But it has trophies, right?
It's got up-resed PS1 graphics, which basically means jack shit.
Exactly.
But I wanted to talk about the recent trend of remakes and Square's newest remake of a remake coming to PS4 with Final Fantasy X. And like this generation of games, and I know a lot of people who still haven't purchased the Xbox One or the PS4 simply because they still have really yet to prove themselves with games. And I think a lot of it is because we're seeing so many remasters. Like, we got The Last of Us, we got Grand Theft Auto, now we've got the Final Fantasy thing coming back. And it's just, we're relying too much on old games to revive them and just slap new paint on and be like, here you go.
Let's look at it. There's a different way to look at that one, though, with these remakes, especially with these games that just came out, like Grand Theft Auto 5 and like, you know, the Final Fantasy remakes that they put out for the PS3. Is that as a whole, as a consumer, if I'm going to buy a new gaming system, what do I want to get? Right? Do I want to get the brand new PS4, Xbox One, but I really want to play Grand Theft Auto 5? Well, do I go buy an old Xbox? Well, then as the consumer, as the manufacturer, I'm like, well, I want people to start buying my new stuff and get away from the old. But I don't want. We made it so they can't play their old games on my system. And we want to show them the greatest graphics and the best, and graphics processor and all that. So how can we put this game that's been out for a year onto the new system to get people to buy the new system? And so, from a consumer standpoint, it's a good move for the for the manufacturer of the systems, but from our point of view, it's like, I want to play something new. I don't want to play the same game that I just got done playing for a year from now.
Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. Rockstar did it well. They did a remake properly. The Last of Us, do we really need it in 60 frames a second? Do we really need photo mode?
I need 120.
Take
frames.
those resources and put it towards finishing Uncharted, or put it towards reviving the Jack and Daxter series. Like, do something more productive with it, because the transition period between consoles has always sucked. But I think this generation transition has been the worst, because it's like we're not ready to move away from PS3, yet we're trying to bring games to both, but it boils down to, well, why would I buy PS4 and get that game if I could just get the game on PS3?
Yeah, and what's weird, like I'm right with that opinion, but I looked at stats, and like the PS4 is the fastest selling console of all time, like a new console, which is just strange to me. I don't have one yet. Only thing I have is a Wii U. That's new. But
I'm totally happy with it. I mean, there's tons of games that I can list off the top of my head that, like, Shadow of Mordor blew me away. I just had a little expendable cash one day, and I'm like, well, whatever, I'll go pick this up and see what this is about. And it blew me away. It was so much fun. But then I got rid of it because it was a game that had zero replay value. Like, well, that was fun. You know, now I can talk to people about it and say, I played this. This was cool. It was innovated because it had the Nemesis system, and now you're going to start to see more games come out with the Nemesis system, and it's going to be really cool. But I'm done with it.
Yeah, and as much as I love Last of Us, I don't think I want to play it again. That was like an emotional roller coaster for me.
That was a game that my wife and I played together. She would not let me play it unless she was there. And when we got to the end, we both said, we will never play this again.
I didn't even beat the game yet. So,
and I think, well, Nick, you could probably attest to this, because it was one of those. It was more of an experience than a game. Yeah. You played, and it was so perfectly balanced with play and then puzzle and then story and then action, and then it was just perfectly timed out that it just flowed. Everything was really good, and you got to the end, and there's just all these emotions, and you get done, and then whoever you played it with, you talk about your interpretations, and you just leave it at that. Because usually when I play through a game the second time, I start picking it apart. And I don't want to do that with this game because I was so fond of it. Like, it was one of the best games that I've ever played. And I feel like, drawing back to the Final Fantasy VII remake, there's so many people that want that game, but honestly, I was reading an article about this. There's one of two ways that it can go. They can either revamp the graphics and keep everything the exact same, right down to the controls and the translation and the materia system and absolutely everything about it. But then people are going to look at that and go, Jesus Christ, that looks good, but it plays like shit. Or they can rebuild it from the ground up and then implement new things and pull something out, and maybe they introduce a new character, or they change a phrasing in something, or they put in a new location, or instead of Cloud being in this spot for this scene, he's in a different spot, and then people go, wait a minute, that's not the same game we played before. So I think with that, it's going to come down to, you're never going to please anybody. So honestly, I would not blame Square for not touching it.
Yeah, and I heard someone on another podcast literally say, I can't wait to play this game so I can get the PS trophies. I mean, that's the whole reason they want to replay the game. So.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
I'll replay it for that. But unfortunately, I think this generation of gaming, or this generation of gamers, has missed out on those old JRPGs because they really don't stand up too well. Like Final Fantasy 3/6 holds up really well. Suikoden holds up really well. But Final Fantasy 7, 8, some of those games don't stand the test of time, and unless you grew up with them and have a fond memory of them, so I can see why they would be crying out for it. But like I said, if they just do the graphics and keep the same gameplay, they're gonna be like, Jesus, this game is shit.
Yeah, I think they'd have to go to I think if they did the Final Fantasy VII remake, I would really want to see them do it. And this is going to sound really strange, but in a first-person perspective. And I think that would be very innovative to the game, to that type of game.
Are you talking like a Skyrim style RPG?
Kind of like Skyrim style RPG, where like, okay, so you're in was it Midgar? Mm-hmm. You're in Midgar in the very beginning, and right now it's over the view, right? It's overhead view. You can kind of see where you're going or whatever, but and you only see the one character anyway. So why not just have it, again, of a first-person or third-person view where you're kind of close in with that, so you can actually see the city and surroundings.
I think the reason that wouldn't hold up too well is because part of the appeal of those old JRPGs, especially Final Fantasy VII, was the pre-rendered backgrounds. And how beautiful they looked. Because could you imagine trying to recreate all of that, like the taxing resources that it would take to create that? I mean, new systems probably could.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at. Like that's what you would need to do to really stand out. And you can't tell me that you wouldn't want to roam around in those environments that are pre-rendered. I mean, they can still do the pre-rendered. It's going to have to be there, right, for a lot of it. And then when you go into the battle scenes, and that's when you're going to jump. Unless they keep it the way they did with the new Final Fantasies, where you're just kind of running around hitting buttons.
And that would completely ruin the game.
Because like that. I would like it to go in there, then all of a sudden you run into something, and it's like almost like either you hold it in two, where you see the guy or whatever you're going to encounter, then you jump into the old style RPG of fighting, where you're going to have your turns. And
I think that'd be a little too abrasive for a lot of people. It's like there's too many different styles of game that it's trying to combine. But I think it'd be cool to see something like that.
I mean, even if they came out with a different game that had that same
I just think what it boils down to is anybody who's bitching about the remake, go back and play the original. If you loved it so much, go back and play it. Because honestly, it's not going to stand up very well. I was thinking about an old RPG that I tried to go back and play that everybody raved about. I think it was Dragon Quest 7?
Dragon Warrior?
No, was it
7?
When did it switch over to Quest? 8 or 7?
I think it was 8.
No, it was 7, because I have Dragon Quest 7. It was an old isometric 3D RPG, and holy shit, that game sucks, in my opinion, simply because of the camera. I got dizzy playing it. But I'm sure people who grew up playing it like, this game's great. It's fine. I don't see a problem with it.
Right. Well, that's the problem. Now everything's that way now. Yeah. You go back to play Final Fantasy VII. I did that. Like, one of our fans wrote in and said, please play Final Fantasy VII. So I downloaded it and started playing Final Fantasy VII.
See, and
that game takes freaking forever.
I would really like to do a group playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII. Just because I feel like not many people appreciate that game for really what it is. I feel like there's nothing we could talk about Final Fantasy VII that hasn't already been said before. But Final Fantasy VIII for me is one of my all-time favorites. But that's super far down the road.
That game was amazing. I wish they came out with a real one.
Oh yeah. What was it called? The Triple Triad?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but I've spent hours and hours playing that game. It was just a lot of fun.
I remember walking up to everybody like, "You play cards with me? Will you play cards with me?" And then I'd lose one of my Guardian Force cards. You're like, "Fuck, reset." It's like, crap. I had to go back 3 hours. Yeah. But any other thoughts before we move on?
Well, not for that anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, just one thing about you talking about DLC earlier. I was always kind of a Nintendo guy just because of they release a game, it's there. There's no DLC, it's good to go.
Yeah.
But now the Wii U has DLC. So far they haven't screwed anything up. Like we've been playing a lot of Mario Kart 8 here at our house, and they didn't do DLC till about a month ago, and it was just new characters. But
that was like a year into the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But
but that's the way you get it. Those games that I like that form of DLC where it's like, okay, we're going to come out with some new stuff that enhances the game, so that way after time passes, you're okay, rather than here's a day later, here's a week later.
I hate it when they say, okay, this game comes out on this date, and then we've got this, and this planned. It's like, well, if you've already got it planned, then chances are it's already in production. Yeah. Just push the game back and put the shit in the game.
Yeah.
And then they got all the stuff for fixing bugs and all that, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Nintendo always been really good about that, and I think that's the one thing that they've always had going for them, that they've carried over from generation to generation, is that their games are exceptionally polished. And I kind of miss back in the day when you'd get a game, there'd be a bug in it. It wouldn't be a game-breaking bug, but those bugs would almost become part of the charm of the game. That you can look back and be like, yeah, you remember that? Nowadays, people aren't going to look back at the missing faces of Assassin's Creed Unity with fondness. They're going to look back and be like, Jesus, that game sucked.
Well, and those games become unplayable, one day in the future if your system you buy doesn't have the update. So you pop it in, you buy it at some yard sale in the area, and the game's broken. So that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Or if they've taken the servers offline.
Shitty, like marksmanship. What is that? Minship, something minship. It's
Quality.
Just crappy. Like knowing that you're creating a game and then you're just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and it's all about the money. It's crazy.
Well, it's all deadline too. Is
Yep.
Yeah.
and we again as gamers have allowed that to happen because they'll say this game needs to be out on this time. Well, this is still broken. That's fine. We'll fix it in a patch. I hate that mentality. It's great because if a really good game gets put out and there's a minor bug, like take Grand Theft Auto for example. I mean, that game's huge. You cannot honestly expect them to have that game 100% QA tested by the time it releases. But if they find a bug after the fact, they can go in and fix it. Like, look at CD Projekt Red. They just pushed back Witcher for another 3 months because they don't want to be the next major AAA title that releases broken.
Well, that's a good thing.
So
I think games that can do that, but like I said, I think the internet hype can really tear down a game because everybody wants it, and everybody thinks they're going to have it, and then it's like pushback. Next thing you know, it's canceled because the investors are like, I need my return.
And I think the developers need to have a little bit more say in that too, because the developers probably aren't the ones saying, whatever, push it out. It's the people with the money putting it out.
Yeah.
Right. And then this is going to be probably off topic here a little bit, but there's something that happened between our last show and now called Gamergate or something.
Yeah, dude.
Which is apparently, I have no idea what it was other than the fact that some lady was like sleeping with people to get good grades on their games or something.
No,
And
it
then-
was...
No.
No, not at all.
It's a really, 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 really shitty time to be female and in any sort of gaming anything right now. I know a lot of friends who have been threatened with like rape threats, death threats, all sorts of threats and everything right now for having any sort of expression or opinion in gaming and journalism and everything. It's just a really, really scary and shitty time.
Because of this thing called the internet. And it's this huge veil of anonymity. And the gaming industry or the gaming world it's a very hostile and just shitty place. You just go into any online video game and turn the headset on, and it's just filled with shitty, ignorant, racist people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
And I guarantee if you were to meet those people on the street, they probably wouldn't be like that. But it's just that's what this has developed
they
into.
can
And
do
like that whole the whole trend of swatting people, like Jesus Christ, I never would have imagined doing
insane.
something like that to my friends when I was a kid.
I have no idea what that is.
It's when you are playing a game online with somebody and if you know where they live, you call their local police agency with a bomb threat and they send the SWAT team in. And they usually do it to people who are streaming. It happened to one of Max Gonzalez's friends.
Oh my God.
They kick in the door with fully automatic assault rifles and handcuff you while you're live streaming on camera. It's a thing.
So, I mean, how many instances has this happened? I heard about it a couple times, but is it?
It's happened dozens, if not.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure, like, there's been, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure someone died or something along those lines.
Yeah, I have no idea. And it's all...
Someone got charged really intensely.
But the
for good
problem is they
reason.
can't track these people.
Yeah, 'cause it's all, you can just dial in anonymously or whatever and use Skype to call in, and the number changes every time you call. So,
Yep.
well, like the thing that brought me up to like to your kind of point, Jess, about I apologize that women are having a tough time right now, but there was a lady that was doing, I don't know, maybe you've heard about her. She's does these internet posts about games of the past and how they affect girls and how like it's all sexism.
Anita.
And, is that her name? Okay.
Yeah, Anita
And
Scarcesian.
Somebody and people were and I was listening to her because my coworker had her on work and he was listening to her, and it has nothing to do with her being a female, or even if it was a guy saying the same thing. I'd have to say that I'd almost disagree with everything that she was talking about with some of these games. I think the one game she was talking about was Earthworm Jim, and how like we just didn't care, like the pre-build didn't care about, it's called the Princess What's Her Name because it doesn't really a plot point, or they made her real pretty or whatever against this. I don't remember all the things she said, but a lot of stuff that she was saying was like, that's not even the point of the game. Like,
Yeah, you're reaching for things at this point. And...
Yeah, you're just going for things, and like I don't agree with what you're saying. I would say the same thing about being a guy saying the same thing, right? But it happens to be a female, so people are going with like sexist thing, like she's an advocate again for women or whatever. And I was like, what?
Well, that's a whole other topic too of
It's like-
extreme feminism to
But
the far side.
like with a lot of she talks about tropes that are used in video games that
that
really
was the word.
focus on like discrimination against females, and a lot of her points are very justified, very, very justified. And she's incredibly smart. She's super intelligent. I love her. And she does. I don't know how to word this, but there are some instances where you might not think that it's like, for me personally, I think that women should be able to wear whatever the fuck they want to wear. And so for me to say, oh, that character is always in bikinis, if I'm saying that, like, oh, that's such a negative thing, that's not really a good opinion. If she wants to wear a bikini, she should wear a bikini. But if the focus is completely on every single character in the video game is wearing a bikini and all the men are completely dressed, there's an issue there.
Well, look at any adventure game. You look at these female warriors going into battle and they're wearing skimpy shit. Even me as a guy looks at that and be like, my first reaction is that's not practical. And then my second reaction is, why the hell are all of the girls have to be just drop dead gorgeous and voluptuous? Like, why can't we have a more well-rounded attire of people?
And it's the same with guys too. Like, feminism isn't necessarily only about females, and it isn't only about females. Feminism is about equal rights for all genders. So when you look at a lot of the male characters in video games, they're completely unrealistic as well. Like, they're jacked to shit. They're like all about guns and killing, and you're not allowed to be sensitive or anything. So it's ridiculous.
But part of that, though,
what's for the people though that they just don't care. Like, I don't care.
You don't care, it doesn't mean that other people don't care, and it doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist.
No, but the other point of it, though, too, is like, you're playing a video game. And I mean, unless the developer is actively out to make a statement, you're playing a game. And it's just, it's a recognizable thing that unfortunately people feel the need to fall back on. Like, well, whatever, it's a girl, give her big boobs, make her skinny, give her a huge ass. It's a dude, give her big muscles.
And then
sex sells for sure. And it's only when it's one-sided when it's a huge problem, and when it's like completely ridiculous over the line.
Look at Grand Theft Auto. Everybody is fair game in that. Like, they hit everything equally. And people still focus on the misogyny in Grand Theft Auto. And it's like, but if you look at the guys in there,
Grand Theft Auto is very satirical.
Yeah, it's a tongue-in-cheek game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's an issue when there are so many gender wars, and that's, I think, what Gamergate did, was it really started pinning male and female gamers against each other, as opposed to looking at just the issues that are surrounding feminist issues in games, and males supporting females and females supporting males. And that's where I think the main problem is that
what it ultimately did was just brought out the shittiness of the gaming community. It's like, I'm going to send death threats to your house, and I'm going to expose your bank information. It's like, where the hell do these people come from?
It's been scary. Like, I haven't wanted to post on Twitter a lot for gaming stuff just because I'm terrified of
I don't blame you.
Threats that I'll get.
I don't blame you.
Bad. That's real bad. I'm really sorry for the human race.
Yep. So, well, I think we should move on to... We didn't really talk about much that we've played. We're going to kind of move forward.
Do you know what I've played?
What?
Kim Kardashian Hollywood.
No, we're not talking about Kim Kardashian Hollywood.
Is that a game? I'm intrigued.
Don't.
Yes, it's so fun.
That's so weird.
Nick,
you have to
sorry.
Nick, don't.
Am I off the show?
Nick, don't.
There's this bitch Willow Pape, and she is such a bitch. But you have to do photo shoots.
How much real world money have you spent on that shit pile?
Well,
that's a lot when she says, "Oh, well."
No, I only spent $5.99, but it was so I can adopt a cat, because there's this cat
you have
that's always there.
15 more seconds of this conversation before I kick you.
Apparently, other people agree with you.
That
is a hot pile.
Oh my gosh! Whatever floats your boat, Jess. Whatever floats
So
I'm happy if you're happy.
I'm gonna the last thing I'm gonna talk about from the PlayStation experience was them announcing one PlayStation 1 classic that everybody has universally been begging for years now, and that's Suikoden 2. For anybody who doesn't know what Suikoden is, it's a very shittily named game from Japan that made its way to North America, and they didn't bother to translate the title. And it's one of the best RPGs of the PlayStation 1 era. Suikoden 1, not so much, but Suikoden 2 is it's near perfection. Who here has played any of the Suikoden games?
I've played a little bit, and not to interrupt you, but there's a real cool story behind how that game got released so quickly. I don't know if anyone listens to any of those IGN podcasts, but
no, go ahead.
On a podcast Beyond, there was a guy, I believe his name was Jared Petty. He kept hyping those games. He was so excited, wanted to get Suikoden out, and it was a few weeks later. His wife had gotten a real bad car wreck, and I'm not laughing. I didn't mean to chuckle there, but they. It was real big. They had fundraisers for him, trying to raise money. And I guess one of the developers, Konami made that game, right? I believe it was one of the Konami developers actually reached out to him and said they were going to try to push that game out a little faster because he had hyped it up so much on that podcast. Because Podcast Beyond's one of the biggest podcasts out on the internet. So it was it was kind of a neat little story how they tried to get that out faster because of the hype he was given.
And I think things like that are really cool, and that's one of the powers of social media is that we can now connect with the developers and they can get an active real-time feed of like, this is what the industry wants. But in the instance of Square Enix, they go, hey, this is what everybody wants. Fuck you. Here's all the bravest. But no, Suikoden it's a very politically charged role-playing game, but part of perhaps the coolest feature of it is there are literally 100 different playable characters that you can recruit to your party, and no two people are going to play the game the exact same way based on who's in their party. So the thing about it is that the storylines actually do connect. So you don't necessarily have to play through Suikoden 1 to get to Suikoden 2, but I feel like for us, in all of our professionalism, we should probably start with number 1. So I know that Nick and I have already started playing a little bit of it. It's available on PSN for like $5.99, and you can actually play it on your Vita. You can't find it on the store on the Vita, but if you buy it from the PS3 or the store, it shows up in your downloads list. So you can download it there and get it onto your PSP or your Vita.
I was able just to go to the game and hit the triangle button, hit copy with my PSP plugged into my PS3, transferred right over.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I don't know if that would work for the Vita.
I don't have a Vita, so I don't know.
That's where I do most of my gaming. I'm primarily mobile right now, and that's mainly because of the kid. Plus, she likes to sit and watch.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
So that's going to be at least on the docket for me next couple shows, and then whatever else we decide to play in the interim, modern games, we're going to try to incorporate those a little as well. But I was actually able to just hack into our email, and we do have some emails. Do you guys want to do a little email?
And Hazmat has a question in the chat as well.
Let's see.
But didn't actually ask. I think that is a little question.
Which one?
Thing.
The Heroes of Might and Magic?
No, I don't think he actually wrote his question.
Then how would you know he had a question?
Because I have a little face with a stick beside it. Oh my god, just read the email and I'll fucking figure it out.
Please figure it out. This one is from Duncan Purcell back in June 16th, so half a year ago. Just getting around to it now. If you want to write us an email, factorysealed@manatank.com. Hey guys, when you think of retro games, what is the first thing to come to your mind and why? Also, do you think video games will ever see another so-called golden era as it did when Nintendo was on the scene and such? Oh, and why does Jess say muffin whenever Eric is being sassy? Love the show and you guys. Why do you say muffin whenever I'm being sassy?
I don't know. Like, oh, muffin. Like, oh.
Is that a thing? Like, have you ever done that?
I say muffin, but I don't know if I say it specifically when you're being sassy.
What do you guys think of when you think of retro games? quick 15-second image. Build it for me. Go, Nick.
Contra, favorite game of all time. That's what I played most when I was a kid. I still play
So
it.
whenever anybody just says the word retro game, you just like half-naked dudes cartwheeling over each other and shooting balls.
Yeah, so Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
lookalikes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
There you go.
I can dig it. Aaron,
Xanadu.
you mean Faxanadu?
No, Xanadu, the actual the plane one. Where you're
Gotcha.
on a plane.
Jess,
Mario.
just Mario. Like just
Yeah, just that's it.
see, I don't think of a specific game. I think of cords and controllers and shitty CRT TVs. And like huddled around them with friends. And like I'm player one.
Oh yeah, I do remember player fights.
Yeah.
My
I
house,
won.
I'm player
I was
one.
older.
And-
My
oh,
house,
I've got
my
an
rules.
N64 and I've got a second controller. Oh, but it's not first party. It's the shitty Shark controller that's like 4 times bigger than the actual controller. Have fun winning races in that one, ass.
And I feel real bad because when I play Mario Kart, and it's half because I don't want him to break it. I'm like, here, Isaac. My son's name's Isaac. You use this third-party controller. I'm gonna use this giant gamepad.
Let's just get a strap for around his neck.
Yeah.
Do you think gaming will ever have a golden era? Another one. I don't think it will.
I think it will.
Well,
I
I
think
think
there's
that-
going to be. I think there's going to be a complete collapse, and then there's going to be another era where gaming gets good again.
I think we're in the golden era right now, the next golden era, but we can't really realize that we're in it until we're not in it. And I think the golden era that we're going to look back on is the rise of the indie movement. And people are going to say, like, wow, those were some great games, like Braid and Fez and just Flower and Journey and all of these IPs that came out of nowhere. And they kind of really pushed the indie developers forward. Jared Masonette writes in, this is back when we came back for the fake time. If you are back, June 19th, I have a game suggestion and a question. First, I would like it if you guys tried out Mario Superstar Saga on the Game Boy Advance. And I was wondering if there's any game that you couldn't beat no matter how hard you tried.
Thousands. Fucking Battletoads.
Yeah, Battletoads.
Battletoads.
I would get to the speeder
Fuck
bikes
it.
at the bottom, and when I got to those, for me, that was the end of the game.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they just suck so bad. I could make it to like the third little part of it.
So
then-
hard.
And it's just memorization. Like, you just have to put in so much time memorizing fucking patterns, and if you're off by a second, you're fucked. That's my answer.
I
Go ahead.
love the games, but I'm awful at Mega Man games. I have never beat
Oh.
I have never beat one without like save states. So.
There is a certain feeling that you get when you actually legitimately beat a Mega Man game, and it's something that I've only experienced when beating Mega Man, because it's a feat.
Yeah. I mean, I can beat Contra without any cheat codes or continues, but I can't even hardly get through a Mega Man game, so it's weird.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Aaron,
I don't think there's a game
you're just too
that I
good at
couldn't
them.
beat no matter how hard I tried.
You're just too good, dude.
Well, I think partly it's because I don't always like to finish my games in general. Like,
or even take them out of the cellophane.
yeah, if I really want to and I really try, then I'll beat it. But otherwise, I don't think I've ever had a problem where I just had to throw down a controller and walk away and say I'm done with this game forever.
Fuck this game, I'm done.
Sometimes I just get I just get on the next game and I never get back around to the game to play it again to actually finish it. So I'm trying to think of a game in particular, but.
Well, while you're thinking about it, our next email is more of, I'm just going to give him a shout out. Austin Apple Basket Head. I think his name is just Austin Head. He just wanted to write in and let us know that he found our podcast on iTunes while he was looking for something to listen to while working at an apple orchard in Alaska. So we always ask if you want to share with us how you found us. I always find that really fascinating because we have people who listen to us from all over the world. And to me, that's super weird because we're just a bunch of people sitting around talking about games. I've always been been honored. I don't know about you guys, to know that there are people out there who enjoy listening to us, and I like to know where they're from and how they found us. So if you want to share with us how you found us, send us an email. I'd like to hear it.
That's cool. I can share with you guys how I found you.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Cue dramatic music. Leave pause.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got sick of all the other podcasts I was listening to, and I just typed in retro gaming on iTunes, and I think it was your artwork. I really liked that factory sealed logo. Had a bunch of my
I threw that thing together in like 8 minutes.
Isn't
like,
funny?
Jess, how does this look? And she's like, it's fine.
Yeah. And the really cool thing is, I mentioned earlier that because of you all, I started podcasting, and if it wasn't for you guys, like Michael Kelso listens to this show.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually met up with him twice. He heard me on this podcast promoting my other podcast, and he started one of his own. We kind of joined up, and we're part of another network. But and within this network, we had a couple little conventions, and I've met up with him twice and had lunch. Great guy. So if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't even be, I wouldn't even know Michael and some of these other dudes I hang out with. So it's really cool. I'm getting all sappy here. So.
Nice. I'm glad we can inspire.
Yeah. So there you go.
I found us because it's super. It's interesting because when I grew up, making friends on the internet didn't exist. It just didn't. And if you told your friends that
it did exist, but you couldn't admit it.
Yeah.
I have a friend
friends.
who, I've known since like grade 8, grade 9.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've talked to him still from then, but he lives in Texas, and like, I would never have admitted that I had an internet friend before.
I
like that guy. He's a nice guy.
For me, it was so weird because I was teaching and I just fell in. Like, I literally just fell into this world. I got picked up to be the editor-in-chief for a different website, and then that's how I met Jess, and that's how I met Matt, and then we all detonated that website and started Manitank, and Jess just kind of floated along with us, and then when we started, I met Matt at E3 in 2012, and then Aaron was there, and that's how I met him, and I knew him loosely through GameStop when I worked there in 2007. And it's just this weird web of shit that happens. And like meeting Jess for the first time this year, but we've known each other for almost 4 years now. It's just weird. But
like, we'll be awkward. Was it awkward for you? Because it wasn't awkward for me.
No, like you just walked up and gave you a hug. I'm like, hey, Jess, what's up?
Like, I feel like I totally put you on the spot. So of course you can't say that it was awkward, but it totally wasn't awkward.
Yeah, not at all. We've got an email from.
Are you going to finish reading the other kid's email, or are you just going to like let it sit there?
Which one? The Austin Head?
Yeah.
No, I said that's just a shout out email.
There's a whole thing in here about him playing
we have
games.
Time frames and limits.
And you're missing the best comment down here in the bottom. That's all I'm saying.
The one about the cartridge?
No, the one about me.
Thanks for your time, and I hope to keep listening to your sensual voice for years to come. I'm talking about you, Aaron.
That's right. See, an apple basket. You probably didn't understand the apple basket. That's a reference to my D&D character. He remembered with the quilted tunic.
Oh,
see, he's a good guy.
I'll go with the +3 Snickers. Next email comes from Nick Stevens.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
that sounds like a winner.
Who's this guy? I wonder if we should get him on the show.
I don't even remember what I said, so this is going to be interesting.
Been missing the podcast. When and if you ever record again, here's a question. What is your favorite retro game based on an existing franchise or brand? Something that is based on a TV show or movie. Hope all is well. One of your biggest fans, Nick Stevens.
Little Mermaid.
What a dork.
Yes. Little Mermaid. I love that NES game.
Back to the Future.
The Telltale one?
Yeah, I love that one too, but even the original one, I remember that was fun. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Home Alone.
Yeah, I think when I wrote that, I was thinking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Isn't that sad? I wrote that email, and I don't even know what I was thinking.
I like this next email from Naveed Farkbakash. He says, hey, great podcast on August 7th. So he says, hey, great podcast, but you talked about babies half the podcast. Just saying.
Don't listen to this episode.
Fucking stop! We talked about babies again.
Yeah. That's only for an hour today, though. So
Let's talk about
half
cats.
the show.
Like we talk about your thing, let's talk about cats more.
Fuck that. Next email comes from Greg the Glorious Ginger. Says, hey, Factory Seal crew, I've listened for a while but never got around to sending an email. I love the podcast and think you guys do a great job. The everyday stories are part of what keeps it interesting. I recently beat Chrono Trigger for the first time, and I have started going through to get all the other endings. So, going off that, I would recommend you guys play Chrono Trigger for the PS1. That's the worst version. I heard it's pretty good and would love to hear what you guys... Oh, Chrono Cross. I thought he said Chrono Trigger. What you guys think, assuming someone other than Eric actually plays it. Burn Jess, burn Aaron. Hope you guys do another podcast soon so you can actually read this. P.S. Eric, how do you plan on showing the Star Wars prequel to your kid? That is what I imagine to be the hardest decision as a parent.
How about you just not?
So let me address the Chrono Cross issue first. I will never touch that game ever again because it sucks. Their battle system
I want to address Sick Burn. I liked him because he was ginger, and then he just had to fuck that all up.
Yeah. Chrono Cross is terrible. I'm going to recant that because I'm working on a new persona because we've gotten emails where apparently I can't have an opinion about a game. I strongly dislike Chrono Cross, but there may be others out there who enjoy it. I have a friend who likes it, so therefore it's okay for me to hate it. Does that make sense?
Spot on.
I didn't like the battle system, and mainly it's because I didn't understand it. It's all color-based, and when there's the wheel in the top and it's red, you have to attack the enemies that are blue, but they're only a blue if you attack them a certain amount of times, and then their color shifts to blue, and then if it switches back, it sucks. I don't like it.
Sounds great.
Chrono Trigger, great. Chrono Cross, terrible.
I think I have Chrono Cross. Maybe I'll try it. Looks like it's a bunch of crap. And then Chad.
Star Wars prequels.
Oh.
I am not afraid to show those to my kids because Phantom Menace, screw every one of you if you disagree, is a great movie. You know why? You know why it's a great movie? Because I was in 6th grade, I think, when that came out. And pod racing was hands down the coolest thing. I wanted to be a pod racer when I grew up. I saw that movie 5 times in the
You were
theaters.
not in
And have you gone
6th
to
grade
the,
when
like,
that movie came out.
The
When
arcade pod racers
1999.
are the best fucking things ever.
Those are
I
pretty
was in
sweet.
7th grade.
Those are pretty sweet.
I'd already had a kid at that point, so
Oh my god, they're so old.
Yeah, I was
Jesus.
Crap.
a freshman in high school, and I was too cool to like it. You know. So.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I freaking love Hayden Christensen, and
Oh.
that's why I love.
He was such a
him.
whiny bitch in
I
the
don't
third
care.
movie.
He could be my whiny bitch.
No, Obi-Wan Kenobi, don't.
here's the problem. Here's the problem
Dark
with Hayden
side.
Christensen cast in that role. One, he's not like the greatest actor in the world, much like Mark Hamill was in the first ones, and he was meant to act that way in all those movies. Like
Yeah.
even Mark Hamill in all those Star Wars movies, you think, man, he's a bad actor. He's not that bad an actor. That's the way that George or whoever directed the movie wanted him to be.
Yeah.
Like that was an intentional. And that's just like having Hayden. And then Hayden was just like, oh my God, he was like the biggest baby you could possibly find. And you have no like sympathy
He was
for
going
him
through
at
a
all.
lot. He had a rough time.
Oh my God.
It
He
just
was so
Wham,
hot.
wham.
it made you think of Darth Vader a little differently after watching that. Because here's Darth Vader just
Yeah, like I had no
cold
like,
as can be.
I thought Darth Vader was the cool guy, but
Yeah.
no, he's just a baby.
No,
It's
he's
like, oh my
gone
God.
through a lot of issues.
Yeah, and then when they were
I'd
You
like
can
to
talk
see
about
what-
Natalie. You can talk about Natalie Portman. You have
Yeah,
no issues.
yeah.
They were
Okay.
the power couple, man.
Unless
Not
she
only
shaves
you
her
could
head,
go with Natalie
that's
Portman,
gross.
you could probably go with Keira Knightley at the same time, and you wouldn't know the difference. You could just sneak in. And be like, oh, I thought that was
Are we
it.
talking about Padme Natalie Portman or shaved head Natalie Portman?
Both.
Who cares? They're both good.
No.
wasn't Keira Knightley
Yeah,
like
she
Padme
rocks it.
in that first one?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
played a
The
couple
yeah.
scenes as Padme. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. Last email comes from Chad Macintosh. Hello. I'm a huge retro gamer. I have a massive collection. I like this guy's descriptors. He fits well with me. Almost too big, but I feel it's more dependable than my RRSP. I don't know what that means.
RRSP?
Yeah.
Retirement Savings Plan? Is he Canadian?
I don't know.
Registered Retirement Savings Plan?
And I've been listening through your podcasts. I went through a lot of retro gaming podcasts, but yours was the first podcast that I can stand. I'm going through episode by episode, other than that shit Final Fantasy 3/6 episode.
No.
That was gold because Kevin and I just got super drunk and talked about a game.
Hey, he put that one below the Toronto Batman.
Shut up!
Maybe he hasn't
Sorry.
gotten there yet.
Toronto Batman.
Toronto Batman.
Toronto Batman.
I still feel bad. Shut up.
I almost turned that episode off. I think that's the only time I almost turned you off. I'll be honest.
Anyways, I've been a fan of your podcast since I heard Jess say that she was listening to the Skyrim soundtrack at a golf course, and the battle song came on, and she got spooked.
That's true.
Long story short, Eric, Aaron, Jess, and now Nick, hopefully. I'm a fan, and I see you haven't done an episode since June, and I'm really hoping you start making new episodes because I have some recommendations. Hope to see a new episode soon. One of your biggest fans, Chad. I'm omitting that last phrase.
I think
That's it.
you've got a couple periods in there, and that's all that was wrong with that.
Yeah, just a couple. Emails. You want to write us an email, factorysealed@manatank.com. You can give us game suggestions. I can't promise we're going to do them because of the new format-ish. I don't know. What are you guys thinking for next week? I know I'm diving into Suikoden.
Yeah, I've already put 2 hours into it. So
Jess, Suikoden. Let's do it.
For weekly, I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
Oh. Right back to our old ways. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I'll be honest. Through this podcast, I'm sitting here listening, and I'm thinking, "Oh wait, I'm in this podcast. I'm not just listening." That's been the weirdest thing.
That's got to be weird for you. It's like 38 episodes of listening, and you're like, wait a minute. It's interactive.
Chime in now, and I can actually say something, and they'll talk back to me.
I totally nerded out because I was texting some of my friends. Like, "Hey, you guys remember that podcast? You used to read my emails. Guess what? I'm in it." So dorky, but you know.
I'm totally getting a high five on the playground tomorrow.
In my boring office life, that's you got to celebrate the little victories.
Guys, meet at the water cooler at 9:04. I got a story. I'm going to have it on my iPod. Listen, guys, that's me.
Since we're changing formats a little bit, I'm going to tackle the games that I've been playing the most right now. And I'm going to talk about Far Cry 4
Next show. Okay.
Is it better than
Aaron's Action Corner?
Hey, no, Aaron's Action Corner is a great idea. And we're going to do it. It's going to happen.
And we're going to do it.
No, it's not.
Nick, what? Let's do a vote here.
Oh gosh.
Fans, send your emails in if you want to hear me talk about sweet action movies on the show occasionally.
No.
Let us know. Email us in. They shut me down months ago. They're like, "No, I'm not going to talk about movies.
We're not a
podcast.
movie podcast, even though we just spent 15 minutes talking about Star Wars."
Let's take a moment of silence and enjoy that silence in the fact that we have not heard from Fry at all.
He's barked a couple times. You must not have heard. But look,
there's a pillow over him.
I'll even go over video game movies. You know what I'm talking about? Like
The Wizard.
The Wizard, Mario Brothers.
I would talk about the Resident Evil movies with you.
The Resident Evil movies. Yeah. Whatever. I can do that. And I have a whole plan out. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I think the fans will really, really enjoy it.
But Aaron's Action Corner, like, really?
Yeah, that couldn't be any dumber.
I didn't come up with that name. That was a fan who came up with that name.
I'm sorry, but that's terrible.
Yeah.
See,
Sorry.
I kind of like the cheesy stuff. It just you kind of just poke fun at it, you know.
And you got like a big
the whole
karate
thing.
chop.
The guy even came up. He was going to come up with the intro music for it, where it was like,
What the hell? Is this a podcast in a podcast?
Can you please just start doing YouTube videos of Aaron's Action Corner?
Have a really poorly draped screen that like has portions of green in it, and you try to like half green screen movies into it, and it just looks like shit. Please do that.
Oh man!
I just want to see it happen.
All right, guys. I think that's it for this week. Next show, I want to go weekly. You know why? Because I didn't talk about this. Guys, next Friday I have surgery. A week from tomorrow I have surgery.
Are you trying to make us feel guilty?
No.
You're getting your breast implants?
This is my breast implants. And it's where I start taking my estrogen pills. It's happening. I'm becoming Erica.
I thought you were just going to stop taking your testosterone pills.
Yeah, I feel like you would have to start the estrogen pills a little while before your surgery.
Well, this is pre-op. Like, this is getting things ready.
Yeah.
You guys are thinking of...
just gonna go in and start massaging. Like, what?
Things have to be removed before things can be created.
Your muscly pecs, like.
Well,
yes.
Next week, I'm gonna be honest, is really bad for me. So
Okay.
it's okay to do the show without me.
Well, let's be honest, Aaron. This whole show is now about honesty. Are you even going to play Suikoden?
If I can get a copy of it, then I'll play it.
Okay, give me an honest answer of even if you got a copy of it, would you play it? To the extent of being able to talk about it knowledgeably.
At least the first half hour of it.
So the titles.
Of actual gameplay, half hour of actual gameplay.
So next week we'll probably try to have a show. I definitely, probably the week of Christmas we won't. But I'm going to be laid up for about 3 months, so I'm going to have a ton of time to play games. So I don't know about you guys, but unfortunately, I'm just looking through the chat, and there are some people that look like they just showed up. Sorry, you're getting here, Chris.
Well, maybe it should happen.
Maybe you should follow us on Facebook.com/Factory Sealed. And then we don't have a Factory Sealed Twitter,
no. But we have individual Twitters.
No, because it's on Manitank's Twitter.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it?
But I don't know if anyone actually tweets from Manitank.
No. Jess, where can we find you on Twitter?
I changed it again.
Oh my god. So 38 episodes are completely irrelevant now.
It's at I am a Jess.
I am what?
I am a Jess. I-A-M-A Jess.
Like a singular Jess.
I'm a Jess.
Singular.
Like you're one of a
I'm one
group.
of the many Jesses. I'm a Jess. We're
Go
a
back to
thing.
Jessica Megan, please.
No, that's...
No.
You hated that too. You made fun of it.
This
He
is
makes
worse.
fun of
Like,
everything.
I didn't think you could get worse than Jessica Megan, but I am a Jess?
It makes sense.
Shut it.
I like
Aaron.
it.
I like it.
Aaron, where can we find you on the not Twitter?
On not Twitter, you can find me at Quilted Tunic on Facebook.
So
Did you get rid of Twitter?
I have Twitter. You can also find me at Quilted Tunic on Twitter.
Thank you for that. Nick, where can we find you?
Oh man, that means I want to start updating Twitter. I might have to change my name too. It's Nicky S485, NICKYS485.
You can find me at Honest Pizza if you want to send us your thoughts, your love, your emails, factorysealedmanatank.com. Until next week, we will see you all later.
What is your surgery?
Having hip surgery.
You're so old.